want to speak to you tonight for a few minutes on when chaos needs grace. I don't know about any of you guys, but one of the things that I love to do is when I'm in a crowded space, stop what I'm doing, watch people, observe people. And one of the greatest places to probably do that is in the mall. And I hate shopping. And my little buddy Philip does the same thing as me. So when Charlene and Sarah goes off shopping, it's a great time for me to just find a bench with Philip and observe people. Now if you observe people close enough, especially in the malls, you will know that as they pass you by, that they're not just casually passing you by. They are so focused on what they've got to do. They are so driven by the demands of life and of reality that they are frantically and scurrying from one place to the other. And most of the times you look at people, especially in this modern technology age, I find more often that I'm seeing people like this. And they're trying to walk, they're trying to do their texting, or they're trying to check their emails, or they're trying to respond to some demand that needs to be taken care of right at this moment. And they are focused on that, and that alone. We live in a world that is full of chaos. We are all so busy trying to complete our to-do list that we oftentimes fail to see the things that are most important right in front of us. Now when I look at these people scurrying past me, so busy, I do not know much about them. I got to be honest. There's not much that I can tell about them. I'm not aware of their problems. I don't know their lifestyle. But what I can see, what's visual to me as I watch them, is the expression on their face, the way they walk. If you look at them, some of them are going around and they've got such sad expressions on their face. Some of them walk like they've got the weight of the world on their shoulders. And maybe they do. I have no idea what they are. I don't know what their problems are. But in our world today, there are so many hurting people. They're searching for love. They're searching for acceptance. And they feel abandoned. They feel forsaken by the very people who want to embrace them. Whether they're a victim of bad choices or a series of unfortunate events, they long for a caring touch. For many people, the sad reality is that family may not understand what they're going through. Even sadder is the fact that the church people have no idea what they're going through. Oftentimes we don't care. We've already passed judgment on them. And they feel alone, and they feel that they have nowhere to turn. They feel like this man in our text tonight. Here we find a man with a troubled past, haunted by demons, and he lived among the only people who could tolerate him, the dead. The later verses of Mark 4 tell us that after long days of teaching and healing, Jesus requests that his disciples take him to the other side of the lake. So they get in their boat and start rowing for the other side. While they're crossing the lake, they are met by some furious squalls that threaten to swamp the boat. Full of fear and concern for their safety, yes, Henrietta, people have fear. Even the disciples who had Jesus in the boat with them, they had fear. And they frantically wake Jesus up from his sleep, who's asleep in the stern of the boat, and say, "Jesus, wake up! Don't you care that we're going to die, that we're going to drown? Don't you care?" Jesus wakes from his sleep, and with 3 simple words he claims, "Quiet, be still." And the winds and the waves die down, and the lake becomes completely calm. Now one writer says this about our text and the encounter between Jesus and the man possessed by demons. They say that Jesus had a purpose for sailing at such a time. It was evening after all. It was light night. And he would not be detained or deterred. He had an appointment with a man who had 1,000 storms raging in his own heart. Storms only Jesus could calm. He was the terror of the city. an angry wild man. The people who lived in the village tried to protect themselves from him. They chained him and had driven him out of town to a nearby cemetery, where he haunted. But Jesus saw beyond the terrible wreckage of this demented and dangerous individual to a soul in chaos who desperately needed help. For those of us here this evening that have experienced an encounter with Christ in our lives, we once lived lives in chaos. But when we accepted Jesus, he brought a calmness and a peace to our chaos that we experienced. Now, I'm not telling you this evening, folks, that if you come into a relationship with Jesus Christ, that you will not encounter chaos. I'm not trying to tell you that tonight, because I would be lying to you. But all I want to tell you tonight is that you would have somebody to walk with you in the midst of your chaos. Somebody who cares for you, somebody who understands the problems, the struggles, what you're walking through in these moments. Christ understands. The songwriter penned these words. It says, there's peace in the midst of the storm of my life. There's an anchor, there's a rock to build my faith upon. Jesus Christ in the vessel. I will fear no harm, for he gives me peace in the midst of the storms. Maybe there's one tonight that have not experienced that calmness and peace that Jesus gives. Well, this evening, for you and for us who are believers, there are three things that this man encounters, three lessons that he experiences in his own life that I want us to pay attention to tonight, to draw our attention to. First is God loves each and every one of us. God has this power to salvage ruined lives. But most importantly, God has a purpose for each life that he touches. Let's look at this fact that God loves each and every one of us. God has no favorites. Oftentimes Sarah and Philip will do the whole, Mom, Dad, who's your favorite? There's no favorites. There's no favorites with my children. We're children of God, and there's no favorites with him tonight. When we come to Christ, we're on a level playing field. We're all sinners living in chaos, in need of an encounter with the one who brings grace into chaos, Jesus. This man had been possessed with demons. He had been excommunicated from the village where he lived. His neighbors and his family had sent him away, fearing for their lives. They were sure that there was nothing that could be done for him. And there's no doubt in my mind that this man who experienced Jesus and encountered with Jesus that day was certain that there was nothing and no one who could help him. There was nobody who could remove the chaos that he was experiencing. Mark 5:3-5 tells us, this man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him anymore, not even with the chain, for he had often been chained, hand and foot. But he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. No one was strong enough to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out, cut himself with the stones. This man was experiencing chaos, but he was soon to encounter the one who could turn his chaos into grace. This was no chance encounter. The Lord sought this man out. He traveled a great distance from the center of his ministry. He left the masses behind in order to find this one troubled man. And there was nothing about him we would find attractive. For all practical purposes, he was a dead man living amongst the tombs. He was a dead man living amongst the dead. And he had no glowing testimony or works that would endure him to the Master. But the Lord sought him anyway, longing to bind up the broken with his marvelous grace. We need to understand that it is broken people like this man that Christ came to save. This man was at the end of his rope and was in desperate need of God's grace through Jesus Christ. Now this man, after his encounter with Jesus, could testify to the words written by William Poole, just when I need him most. The fourth verse says, just when I need him, he is my all. Answering when upon my call, tenderly watching, lest I shall fall, just when I need him most. Do you need him most tonight? Are you like that man? Do you need Jesus? Are you experiencing that, or you have this thought in your mind that nobody loves you? Well, I want to tell you tonight that Jesus loves you. He loves you so much that he came from heaven to earth to save you. This man's world was about to be turned upside down. You see, Jesus didn't cross the lake for the crowds. for he didn't address them. He simply arrives in the region of the Gerasenes, meets the needs of this possessed man, gets back in his boat, and leaves again. Let me tell you, folks, Christ is here today. He is not looking for those who are satisfied, or those cold-hearted folks who don't want God disrupting their comfortable routines. No, he's looking for you. He's looking for me. No matter what we've done, no matter where we've been, he's not here to accuse. He's here to forgive and to love. The second lesson that I want us to learn from this man's encounter with Jesus is God has the power to salvage our own lives. Mark 5:6-11 tells us, when he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell at his knees in front of him. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? In God's name, don't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you impure spirit." And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." And he begged Jesus again and again not to send him out of the area. Now, Charlene and I, as most of you would know, spent some time in Toronto in March month. And we did a course on Mark. It was a week of sitting down listening to Dr. Major Bruce speak on Mark. And what a knowledgeable man about the Gospel of Mark. Opened my eyes to a lot of the Gospel of Mark, stuff that's so in depth that I didn't realize. But one of the major themes that kept coming out in the whole Gospel of Mark is this idea of Christology. That's people who know who Christ is, while others have no idea who he is. And there are those in the Gospel of Mark who know the identity of Jesus. They know who he is. They know the power that he possesses. While there's others like the disciples who are slow. They don't seem to realize and know who he is or why he's come. One group of these people or spiritual beings that are aware of who Jesus is impure spirits. And whenever Jesus encounters someone possessed with an impure spirit, the impure spirit knows who Jesus is, and they know the power that he possesses. The same holds true for this encounter. As soon as Jesus gets out of the boat, he is approached by this man with the impure spirit. And the impure spirit addresses Jesus, calling him Son of the Most High God. They know who he is. Spiritual beings know who spiritual beings are. But this impure spirit is not able to contend with Jesus. Has no power over Jesus. They know the power that Jesus only needs to speak the word. Just as they did in the boat with the disciples, all they had to speak was quiet, be still. Or all they had to say is get out of here. And it wasn't done. That impure spirit and those legion of impure spirits knew who Jesus was. They knew the power that he possessed. So they begged Jesus not to torture them. They know who they're dealing with. We know that there's great power in the demonic world. The Bible describes their hatred for the things of God and how they oppose his work. I'm telling you, folks, there's evil in our world. People believe that the impure spirits ruling in Jesus' day. I'm going to tell you something right now. There's a lot of impure spirits in our society, in our world. There's so many people who are dabbling into satanic worship and Ouija boards and all these other satanic things, looking for the evil, trying to cross the barriers of the living to the dead. The impure spirits are real in our world today, and we wonder why our churches aren't full. People are possessed. People are searching after the evil things and the evil desires of their heart. They're not focused on the things of God. Focused on the world. The Bible describes her hatred for the things of God and how they oppose his work. But when confronted face to face with the King of Kings, their only response is to fall before him, as did the man in this encounter with Jesus. Not only does Jesus have the power to bring the impure spirits to their knees, but he demonstrates his power to drive them out of this man who had been held captive by them. Mark 5:11 and 15 says, A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. And the demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs. Allow us to go into them." And he gave them the permission, and the impure spirits came out and went into the pigs. And the herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this to the town and the countryside. And the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons, sitting there, dressed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. Jesus reminds us that there is no demon, no past sin, no matter how dark we think it is or how great we think it is, it's not too great for the Lord to take care of. When the villagers saw the man that had been possessed sitting in his right mind, they were afraid, and they pleaded with Jesus to leave their area. They were afraid because they could see before their very eyes the power of Jesus. Jesus had gone into the Gerasenes on a mission to salvage the life of this man. Mission was complete. Jesus appeases the people, and he begins to leave to the other side of the shore. Now, the third thing I want us to look at this evening is God has the purpose for each life that he touches. When we see the people pleading with Jesus to leave, and Jesus begins to get aboard the boat, we can almost assume end of story. Jesus has done what he went there to do, and now it's time to move on to the next person experiencing chaos. Not so. As Jesus is getting into the boat, we are told in the last verses of this section that Jesus is confronted by this possessed man. He begs him, "Jesus, can I come with you?" And Jesus did not let him. But he says, "Go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." So the man went away and began to tell the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him. And all the people were amazed. This man wanted to go with Jesus. He was prepared to leave everything and follow him. But instead of allowing the man to come with him, Jesus instructs the man to tell his family, tell his friends how much the Lord has done for him. In essence, Jesus is asking this man to spread the gospel of the good news, that Jesus can turn chaos into calmness by his grace. You see, Jesus had a plan and a purpose for this man from the beginning. I love the verse, Jeremiah 29 and 11. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future." And Jesus had crossed the lake, gone into a Gentile territory to meet the needs of this man because he had a plan. He had a purpose for this life that he was about to touch. And he sent this man on to be a messenger of the gospel of the good news. No life has gone so far that Jesus can't turn it around. And once Jesus changes a life and places a new song in our hearts, he gives us a mission and a purpose. This evening we have learned 3 lessons about God, about his love. The first is that he loves us individually, no matter what we have done. He seeks a personal relationship with us, even though we have nothing to offer in return. Secondly, he has power to salvage damaged lives. Thirdly, he has a purpose for you. He wants to use you to share his message of love with those in our communities and our families. Maybe you're like a man in need of God's loving touch tonight, saving touch. Maybe you're concerned about the people in your life who are lost. You want God to use you to reach them. Whatever your need is this evening, now is the time to act. It's time for chaos to meet grace. What are you facing in your life tonight? What are you experiencing? Are you experiencing turmoil? Is there sickness? Are you concerned for your family? God knows it. I was sitting at my desk today and I was reading through my sermon for tonight. And I was reminded as I was reading through of a song written by General John Gallons. Song 935. We're not going to sing it. I just want to draw your attention to the words of this song tonight. says there are people hurting in the world out there. They need you. They need me. They need Christ. There are children crying and no one to care. And they'll go on hurting in the world out there. And they'll go on dying, drowning in despair. And they'll go on crying that's unless we care. But they need you. They need me. They need Christ. Psalm 935 in the Psalm. Verse 2 says, there are people living who would rather die. And their Christian neighbors simply passing by. They need you, they need me, they need Christ. There are people sitting by a silent phone. People cold and hungry, people left alone. Suicides for a reason that remain unknown. They need you, they need me, they need Christ. There's the prostitute and the prisoner too. There's a skid row fellow who won't look at you. They need you, they need me, they need Christ. The compulsive gambler dreaming of his yacht. And the lad that's stealing just to get the shot. And the girl that's pregnant and pretends she's not. They need you. They need me. They need Christ. There's a runaway there are runaways who want a place to go. There are alcoholics who don't seem to know. They need you, they need me, they need Christ. There are godless people who have lost their way. They need God's love, but they're afraid to say. If we close our eyes, perhaps they'll go away. Without you, without me, without Christ. Tonight, are we turning a blind eye to that? It's not about people. It's not that you're being nosy all the time. That's not what it's about. It's not about trying to figure out what they're doing or anything like that. Just look at people. Just look at them as they pass you by in the streets, in your communities, when you see them at the post office, when you see them at the grocery store, when you pass them as you're driving by the street. Folks, there are so many people on this shore in our communities who need us to be God's hand extended to them. There are shut-ins who need a phone call. They need us to simply pick up the phone and say, how are we doing today? There are people who haven't darted these church doors for years. When was the last time you picked up the phone and called somebody and said, I've missed you at church? We've missed you at church. We're praying for you. Folks, just like this man experienced Jesus, his chaos was turned to grace. We have a whole world that needs God's grace. They need to be met at their point of need tonight. And God wants to meet them. But He wants to use you. He wants to use me tonight to be the avenue in which we reach them. That He touches their lives and He changes them from who they are.